Have you guys gone through that? How to create the ECR, how to create the ECS cluster, how to create the services, the task definition.
Yes, Ashok. I was able to create the ECR, and I was able to push the things. Ashok, I mean the image. Ashok, am I audible?
Yes, Puneet, you are audible.
Yes, I was able to create the ECR and I was able to push the image, Ashok. But in the cluster part, I have many confusions, Ashok. I've noted down. I couldn't follow it, Ashok. Uh, what is the difference between the task and service, Ashok? First, we'll create a task. We can create multiple tasks. To update the task, we use services. Is it, Ashok?
No, the service is that whatever you are going to see, task is starting phase. The creation of task means configuration, whatever you're providing, that is a starting phase. The service is the running phase of that container. Running phase means what? Exactly whatever you're doing the task, whatever you have given in the task. If you want to have multiple tasks, then we use the service. Means the service keeps the task continuously running. It makes the group of tasks which makes the container continuously running. That's a running phase of the container. Okay, we'll do one thing.
Ashok,
Yeah.
after we create every task, we need to set that security groups, Ashok. We need to do in the instance after creating instance. We need
Yeah,
to set.
you will be having your own security groups also here for the tasks, because as I mentioned in the EC2 we have your own security groups, but here we don't have our EC2 machines, right? This is a serverless. So for every container it has its own security group. Every task when you are defining in the container, it will be having own security group. Let's do one thing. I will host the voting application. Along with it, I will explain you what exactly with the Fargate, and we will go a little advanced for the ECS, EC2 mode also, a little basic topics, and tomorrow we will continue that. Okay?
Okay.
So that way it will be easy for you also. Let me know once you see my screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Ashok.
Okay, now let me create a cluster first. Okay, we need only Fargate, right? We need only Fargate. So I will be going with the Fargate. See, this is the old old view of the AWS ECS, means ECS. This is the old view. If you want the new, you can go and change it. It's up to you. Okay, what is the cluster name? Now I will be giving demo NDR. Okay, now if I want to create new VPC, means I want that ECS to be in a isolated position, means I needed my own VPC. I don't want to use the default VPC. So you can create your own VPC. So it is automatically taking that. This is a CloudWatch, means CloudWatch is actually for the logs monitoring purpose. So we will just enable it. If you don't want also, it's fine. I'm just going to create the container. See, now it takes time because it creates a VPC and along with it creates the subnet and everything. So it takes a little time when the cluster is created.
Ashok, for this page, we need to edit any, like change the settings, Ashok.
Yeah, in the service means once if you open the service and ECS, share your screen if you are opened in ECS. If you have opened ECS, you can share your screen. I will show you. It will be coming on top as a pop-up. It will be coming to you.
Okay.
You can go there. This is actually means right now that from 2023 they made the new experience as a default view. If you want to go back to the old view, you can just change it. Now see what exactly it is creating. It is creating a subnet route table, subnet to the VPC availability zones, internet gateway, route table, Amazon EC2, virtual private gateway attachment. They are creating everything. Now the cluster has been created, view cluster. See, now see here it is there, right? The new Amazon instance will be with default for the user starting. You can opt in the new console today to use a new specified workspace for deploying. So you can continue to use a classic console for any unsupported features in the new experience. So this, like this pop-up, it will be there. If you click on this, the old console, so automatically it takes you to this page only. Got it?
Yes, Ashok.
Now the task definition. See here, now if you see, this is the cluster, this is the cluster, this is the cluster, what I have done, demo India. It shows what are the services it will be running, what are the running tasks, everything it will be showing here. I have made it for Fargate, so I will be using Fargate. Now if you see how many tasks will be running, how many active service, how many services tasks. See, and if you see here, this was the one which I was telling yesterday, the ECS tasks, ECS instances, we are in serverless. So if you create a task also, you will not be able to see any EC2 instances here. The metrics, what exactly how it works, the CPU utilization and everything, it will be showing here. Tags, schedule tasks, capacity providers, how much you will be taking it out, that thing. Okay, let me create a task definition. So I want the Fargate mode. So Fargate, next step. Now, if you see what will the task definition name I am giving as oat. What is the task role? You will right now keep it as none. I will explain you why this thing or the operating system. We are operating on Linux. Task execution role, keep it the same thing. Don't change. What should be the memory? I want 2 GB memory and the task CPU as 1 vCPU. Now, container, add container definitions. What will be the container name? I want to give the same name, oat. What will be the image? This is the image. Now, keep the same thing, everything, memory limit scheme, the port. We need a port on, the port should be port 80. We need it on the port 80 because we need the working on the port 80. Now, after this, okay, everything keep like that only. Don't change anything. Just keep like that. Okay. Okay, add the container. Now, here, I don't have to click this. Okay, task, network mode, AWS PC, task role 1, container has been added, CPU limit is there. Just sorry guys, create the task. Now the task is created. Now let's
interrupt, but what we did right now is we created a cluster, and in the cluster we started a task. That's all, right, Ashok?
now see, task definitions will be outside of the clusters. So we will create a task here, and once we have the cluster, means in a single cluster you can run multiple services, and with that services to run you need that task. So if you add this service in the service, if you create this service here, we will be adding the task. See the task definition. What is the task definition? That will be adding here. Whatever the task we created, that will be showing here. Let me do one thing. Let me create 2 tasks at a time and I will show you why exactly I was telling. Create another one. Fargate mode. Next step. Enter the name as Redis. Task role as selected as none. Operating system should be Linux. Task memory 2 GB. Task CPU 1. Now add the container. The container, I'm keeping it as Redis. And take the container image ID. Now the port works on the 6379. The Redis works on 6379. Let's keep that. And network settings, keep it like the same thing. And the logging, just log configuration should be the same thing. And add the container. Now create this service. Now task has been created. Now see, we have two tasks. One is Redis and another one is Oat. Okay, now if we go to the clusters, and if we go to the cluster which we have created, and if we click on the service, create service. Now, if you see, I want the launch type of service as AWS Fargate operating system. It has taken as Linux. Now, the task definition. If you see, whatever the task we create, it will be showing here. Now, if you want to have multiple tasks, multiple task definitions, you can create. Let me create all the tasks whatever I am having. I'm creating it as worker.
Ashok, for every task, every individual task we create, we need to create a separate task definition, Ashok.
Yes. See, that's a normal thing, right? In Docker Swarm also, whatever you do, you mention everything, right? For here, if you go through the GitHub, what exactly the Docker Compose file has? What exactly the Docker Compose file has? It has everything. We write everything here, right? Because we whatever we want to do, we are writing it here. For the vote, for the result, for the worker, everything we are defining it here, right? The
Yes,
same thing. This is the task definition. This is the task. The same way here we are doing it. Here it has been writing. Here you are doing it from the directly UI. You are not doing anything different here. You are just mentioning the task differences. You are just declaring what exactly you needed. What exactly you needed. Sorry. What exactly you needed. Here in the container, we are adding the container, the image.
okay.
Let me see. The worker node should be running on. Result should be working on the 5001 port. Hmm. This is a worker, right? This is a backend service. So what exactly they have given here? We will keep it as empty right now. After that, we will look into it. Now, still two more needs to go. I'll explain all these things why I'm selecting the task role as none. I'm keeping the task execution role as the same thing.
Ashok, every time we are giving a 2 GB, 1 GB, right, Ashok?
Yes.
Like if we give in our thing, it is free account.
Hmm.
There is like 500 GB something, Ashok. It will consider in that, Ashok. 100 GB, it will be reduced.
Yes, obviously.
But then we'll after terminating also they will calculate, Ashok.
No, for the day, whatever you have used, they will consider that one. Even if you have used and you have deleted it also, they will consider that one. Because see, here you will not be using 500 GB, but still here you are taking it. So they will consider that one. 585, what was the code details they have mentioned?
Ashok, one more thing I'd like to add to Punit point, Ashok. Like we are, can we change the VPC, Ashok?
Yeah, we can. I have created a new VPC, right?
Yes, yes. But default VPC, what they have said,
Means,
like whatever the VPC default VPC to consider, right? Well,
No, I'm not able to understand what exactly you want to say.
Do we need to create new VPC or like it will consider the default one?
It's up to you. You can, if you see, we don't want our application to be on the default. See, suppose you are a root user, right?
Hmm.
You are a root user right now, and if you have a using default VPC, means consider it as an organizational account, and they have created a default VPC. Now, whenever someone logs in into your account, they will obviously able to see that default in the default VPC. There is the application is available. They will be able to see what exactly you have done in that VPC. What are all the tasks you have done? They will be able to see. For that
Yes.
reason, what people do is that they create a separate VPC because they don't have any latency issues. That VPC will be isolated. No one will be able to see. Only you have the access. You will be able to provide to that access. So that way it works out.
Yes, Ashok.
Best method to do that.
Ashok? Ashok?
Yes, yes, Ashwin, tell me.
Like you were speaking till now, Ashok?
Oh, my voice was not audible.
No, no, Ashok.
Yes,
No, now from now we could hear.
The thing is that, see, if it is a default VPC, if it is an organizational account, if you log in, means someone, you are root user and you have done your application and contains everything in the default VPC. Someone you are giving the access with IAM role. If you see in your login, you have root user and IAM user. When you are first time logging, when you log into the AWS, right?
Yes.
So the IAM user will obviously able to see whatever you have done in the default VPC. You will be able to see everything. So that's the reason we actually create a isolated VPC. Why? Because your application will be stable and secured. No one will be able to see until unless you are the one who gives you the access to look into that exactly build, exactly VPC, whatever you have given. That way it works out. That way it works out. It's not like that, okay, we have that VPC, we default, we know. The best practice is always have to have your own account. Always have the best practice is to have your own account, your own VPC, your own VPC. That way it works out every time. What was the DB we run? Postgres 3391, right? 3281. Oh, nice. What is the port
Port number, Ashok. 5432.
for the DB?
Postgres 5432.
Yeah, that's good. Actually, I didn't remember this. Now I have created my tasks. Now my one of the work means the starting phase of the decision is done. My starting phase is done. Now, if I want to run, if I want to be in the running phase, if I want to be in the running phase, I need to create the service. Now, see, if you select service, launch a target, operating system Linux, now the task definition, see, whatever the tasks I have created, they are showing it here. Now I want to be one. Why this three is showing is that I have created word two times in my old, in the same account two times last. So it is considering the task definition name as a latest, the third revision. It is the cluster is demo India. The service name should vote. Service type replica. I want the number of tasks. Now see, if you give two, it will create two tasks. If you give three, it will give three tasks. If it create four, five, it's up to you how many tasks you want to be running in this service. In this service means number of containers it will be running. Right now, and I just need one. So one. I will explain this rolling update and everything. Now, see, I am taking the newly created VPC and the subnet. This is the subnet. I'm just going to take it. Now, if you go to the port 6733, what is the port it needs to be having? It needs to work on port 80, say. Enable this service discovery. I will explain you why. display name what? Okay, that's fine. TTL should be 60 seconds. Next step. Now create the service. Now create the service. The service has been created. Now the service has been created. Come on. So it is showing how many tasks has been completed. Security group has been created. Inbound rules has been set. Now next it is creating a DNS namespace. I will explain it why. And the service has been created. Now view the service. Now if I go to the tasks, I click on this. See, now it is running. Now it is running. The task is in the provisioning state. Now it will come into the running state. In the meanwhile, see, it is having its own public IP and private IP because we are in a cluster where we are in a Fargate mode where we don't have any ECS instances, EC2 instances. See, you don't have any EC2 instances, but you have a service. What is the service? Port. And it has having a task which has been here. It is showing it here. Port. It is still activating. Let's wait. Now it's running. Now if I click on vote, see, now see, my work is just to update the task and create it. I don't have to install the Docker. I'm not doing anything. I'm just working everything on the UI. I'm just adding the tasks. I'm just giving the details and working it out. My work is just this much. This is the beauty of ECS. Now you tell me, guys, if I vote, whether it will vote or not, whether the vote will be accepted or not. If I vote now, whether it will be my vote will be accepted or not.
Yes, Ashok. Yes.
No, no. So Redis is not.
It's there. Task Redis task is created.
We created task, but then we didn't launch.
I mean,
Yes,
maybe
Ashok is right because the Redis is not a here. Puneet, understand, task is the starting phase. Starting phase, we have just created it, but we have not yet run it. We have not in the running phase. The service makes the task running. The service makes the containers running. Now, if I click, we will get internal server error because the Redis is not running. The Redis is not running at all. This was the reason it will not work out. Now I will create another service, Redis service, so that it will make sure that my other Redis task runs. Number of tasks, let me keep it one only. Pulling update. Next step. Here in the Redis, what is the port we have to run it? We have to run it on the custom TCP, means it should be running on the port 6379. We will say enable service discovery, local private. Detail 60 seconds. Now create the service. Now service got created. Now I want the service tags. I want the see now. If I vote it again, if I vote it again, whether it will take it or not, whether it will take it or not. Tell me guys whether it will take it or not. Will it take the vote or not?
I don't think so, Ashok.
Hmm?
No, I don't think so. It will work.
Why?
Like we didn't create the database, not yet connected.
No. The Redis should take the vote, right? It should cache it, right?
Yes,
That
yes,
was
Ashok.
that was the reason we are created the Redis service.
Yes.
But still, it will not take. Why? Oh, it taken. Okay, it has accepted it. Let me see the logs. It has accepted the vote. It was it was accepted the vote. Now I'm doing it. See here, the Redis automatically means automatically. Normally, what usually happen used to do is that in the service when we are creating the new task means when we are creating the new service, the old service task needs to be stopped so that the old automatically recognizes the new Redis one. But here it automatically taken it. So now the vote and Redis is working. Now the vote and Redis is working perfectly fine because I'm able to vote means I'm able to cache means the Redis is able to cache my vote. Now, once I got my DB and the worker backend and the result, it will be able to showcase my result. It will be able to showcase my result. Now, guys, it's up to you now. You have to create three more services, three more services. What are the three more services? The DB,
Result.
result and worker, and you have to vote, and you have to figure out you have whatever the vote you have been done. Once you open the result, it has to showcase your result. It has to showcase your result. All the five services should be running. As I mentioning, all the five services should be running. Here it will be running. Task count should be 5 and the active server service count should be 5. So this way it should be running the account. Here you will be having 5 services and you will be having 5 tasks. You will be having 5 tasks. Now let me ask you a question. How does the service know how to connect to Redis? We have not given anything, right? How does the vote know to connect to Redis? How does it know? How this vote service needs know that it should connect to the Redis service? How?
We selected the VPC and subnet, Ashok.
So no. The VPC and subnet are outside. These are creating in the container in a cluster. In a cluster, right? In a cluster, we are creating them. So how does it know that it needs to
Ashok,
connect to
your
the
voice
Redis?
is not audible.
Now,
Ashok.
hello.
It is
Yes,
breaking.
Ashok.
Where did it got stopped?
Yeah, please continue, Ashok, please.
Yeah, we are created a new VPC. We created a subnet. That's fine. Now we have created a cluster in that VPC. In that cluster, we have created service. Means the containers have been created. The task, the service. What exactly the service is that? Running phase of the container. Now there are two containers. One is Oat container, and another one is Redis container. Now here, if you're in the Docker Compose or anywhere, actually what we do, we write depends on, right?
Depends.
Yes.
We write depends on. But here we have not done anything. How does the service know? Sorry, guys. How does the service know that oat container should be connecting to the Redis container? How it is actually working it out? How it's actually working out? How it is able to connect directly?
Since all these tasks are in a single cluster, the AWS background will be doing it,
No,
connecting it.
no, not the one. I will explain you why it is connecting. When we are selecting, when we are configuring a service, let me show you. When we are okay, I have to. Okay, let me cancel this one. I'll explain with the new already existing one. See, when I have selected this O task, if you see, there was something which I have ticked. I have said that I will explain you later, right?
Yes, yes, Ashok.
What was that tick?
See,
This was the tick. Service discovery. They mention it optional, but this is a very important one. This one recognizes this service discovery recognizes the other services in that cluster. This is the one which recognizes the services in that task in the cluster, which creates a namespace, and with the route 53, it will be affecting, it will be mentioning. Let me show you. If we go to the route 53, if we go to the route 53, you will be able to see, a local one. How exactly, what exactly I'm talking it about? See, there is a namespace local. Now, if you see, there is a hosted zone. Click on the hosted zone. Now, you will be able to see a local space, local namespace. This is a local namespace. If I click on this, are you able to see? Are you able to see the record name? What was the record name here?
what?
Service discovery endpoint port.local, what you are seeing here. And what is the IP? 10.0.1.208. Now, if you go back, and see the tasks, what is the IP? What
No,
is the IP of the word task? Here, when we are actually working out now, if I stop this task, let me show you. If I stop this task, if I stop this task, if I am stopping the task, now the task has been stopped. Now a new task will be creating. Because the number of tasks we want, desired number of tasks was one. Now it will be creating a new task. Let me wait. Let it create a different new task. Now see, it is provisioning. Now what is the IP here? What is the IP? Private IP 10.0.1.9. Now if you go and just refresh it, see, this is the one make sure the services discover each other with the route 53, which makes whatever the websites you want to handle, whatever the things you want to handle, this will be making sure this in the redis.local, because this is the DNS name for us. This is the DNS name where it makes sure, okay, if the IP is getting changed here, take the IP from here, from the private IP, get the data from here. Why I am giving local is that the ones which we are using in the task definitions, these are all the task definitions, whatever we are using, these are all, been mentioned, these are all changed with the local, means they have been discovered. That I will explain why and how it is going on. I will explain. This is the way how service discovery works. This is the one mandatory. This is the way how exactly in a cluster the other services connect to each other. It makes sure, okay, the vote is needed of Redis, because in the vote I have mentioned in the coding part, I have mentioned it should connect to redis.local. That I will explain in the environment variables, topic. Just after this only I will be explaining you this thing. Are you guys able to understand what exactly we have done?
Yes, Ashok.
yes, Ashok.
So now it's your time. Now it's your thing. To create three more new services, and three more. Already the tasks have been created, so you can create it the same way. Three more services, and you have to run each task of that service, and you have to make sure once you vote, and in the result you have to see the result value. And here everything will be redis.local, vote.local, like the same way it will be db.local, worker.local, result.local will be showing here. This is the hosted on route 53. This is the route 53. Now, why we are using this local, why we are using this local. The namespace can, you can create anything, you can create anything, Ashok or anything else, but here if you change the same thing in the coding, in the container, whatever we have downloaded from here in the container image, the code should also be, the code should also be changed. Now if we talk on this, if we talk on this, see in the GitHub here, whatever we have decided means, suppose what exactly they have done in the result worker depends on what exactly they have done. They have mentioned some environment variables. See here in the DB, they have mentioned environment. What exactly this environment is? What exactly this environment is? Means they need environment variables. Means suppose if you remember in the Java, in Python, anything, whatever we are working on it, whatever we are working on it, whatever we are working on it, if there is some code change, there is some variable names needs to be changed, we have to, every time we have to go to the developer and have to tell him that please change the name, change the variable name, because we are not getting the result. That is a waste of time, right? Suppose if you have hard coded the code, now suppose if you see here, let me give an example. If you go into the result, just a minute guys, hello. If you go into the result, result is what in result, what result is dependent on DB, and result is dependent on DB, right? Result is always dependent on DB, that we have discussed, right? Okay, let me not go like this. Whatever we have done for the vote, let me go to the vote so that you will be able to understand what I'm talking about. Okay, let's go to result only, so this is easy to show you. Here what exactly in the Docker compose file it has been there. Let me do one thing, open this in. String, what exactly they have done, used Postgres. They have hard coded the values. They have hard coded the values, means the DB user and password name should be Postgres. So in the coding part, they have hard coded, which makes our lives a little difficult, because if we start having this environment variables, if we want to use the environment variables, once it is in the production system, and if you want to change, if you want to change some value, means suppose this is a Postgres. In the coding, they have mentioned in the coding, once the user modify and say that okay, this name I'm not liking it, I want is double S. So again you have to go to the coding, you have to go into the code and you have to modify, which is in the production. That is possible? No, that is not a good way. This is not actually a good way. Hard coding is never a good way. We always should use environment variables, where you can write a file, whatever you want the values, that value should be written in somewhere, and from there we have to use with the dollar variable. If you go to Ubuntu or maybe any system whatever you are having, you can just use like this.
Ashok, you're not audible.
I am not speaking. I am not speaking it. Now I am audible.
Actually, your voice is breaking a lot, Ashok.
I have the speaker and everything is connected perfectly fine. Okay, let me now.
Yeah, continuation.
So what exactly I was talking it about is that environment variables. Why? What exactly is this? Now, if you see, I will tell you when you start working on the other three tasks, three services, you will face the issue. What issue I am telling now itself? What will be the issue is that once you create this service, if you create vote, Redis is already there now, you will create DB worker and result. But once you vote, the Redis will be cached this one, but you will not be able to see the result in the result val. You will not be able to see the one in the result. Why? Why? I will explain you why. Because as I mentioned here, they have used for the db to connect for the db to connect, they have used the postgres environment variables, they have used environment variables. So we have to mention this we have to mention this environment variables when we are defining our tasks. When we are defining our task means the environment variables are very much important whenever we are working with application. We almost require our db access and redis access. So for that they needed this environment variables to connect to the database, so for that in the task definition, when you are working on it, here if you go to the task definitions and if you see the db, if you go to the db, if you go to the db, if you click on the container, if you click on the container here, okay, and here we have to update a new revision. So db aws, if you click on the container, if you click on the container, come little down, you will be able to see the environment here. You have to provide the username and the value. What should be the username and value? This is the name you need to mention if you want to connect to the db, if you want to connect to the db. So this should be your postgres user and the value should be value. What is the value? Postgres. And what is the password you want to have? Is that postgres password? What is the value? Value will be the same, postgres. Now this is the one. If you not provided these values, if you don't provide this value, if you don't provide these values, then you will not be able to see the result. If you not be able to see it, that is the reason the environment variables are they have defined it here. This is they have defined it hard coded, which is a wrong way. We should never do that. The best way is that, as I've mentioned, suppose you are having, if you are having in ubuntu machine, and okay, let me open an online ubuntu just to show you something. Come on. Um, the tutorial point is not working. Uh, okay, let's leave it. I just don't want to waste my time. See here, actually, when we use, if you have Ubuntu terminal, just use export and mention the username equals to admin. And if you want to use this value, if you want to use echo dollar username, automatically, this will print the Ubuntu access. This will prevent the Ubuntu. This will prevent the value. This will make sure the echo means if you are using the dollar username, it will print the value admin. This was the one they have mentioned here. This was the one they have mentioned here. Environment variable, the benefit means if you are having, if you want to use multiple values, means if you are using, your variables have been defined, declared, so we have to mention the variable names. We have to mention the variable names so that the db means for the db to access, we have to connect to the db. For that, the db environment variables needs to be provided here. Now the hard coding way is never a good way. Now there are three ways we declare.
Ashok,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt. I have sent a link, Ashok. From that, you
Okay, that's fine. Let's see whether it works or not. Yeah, again, I have to click here and start up and everything. That this takes very long time. Okay, that's fine. If I want, I will just create a new EC2 machine only. I just don't want to do that because it's just a time taking process. Okay, now where exactly we here? Here in ECS, the declaration of variables, environment variables, is of three types. One, here you can declare directly on the task definition, where you can declare your environment variables. Now here there are two variables, that's fine. Now suppose that you have an application. In that application, for that single container, you are having 50 variables, 100 variables. How you are going to do that? How many values you going to add it in a single container? Means multiple variables. That way you will mess up somewhere. By giving the same value, you will mess up something. For that we don't want to do that. For that, what we do, the best way, we will create an environment variable. We will create all the variables in a single file, and we will upload it to the S3. Then from there, if you see this option, environment files, if you click on this, See, we will upload to the S3 and we will provide the S3 ARN here. We will provide the S3 ARN here. If you are having multiple values, multiple variables, multiple environment variables, we will save it in a single file and we will upload to the S3 bucket. And from there, we will just provide the S3 ARN here. That way you don't have to give the environment variables manually here. This will work out. And the one more thing, where you can the AWS gives you one more option where if you see there is a value and there is a value from. What is this value from is, if you go to AWS, there is a secrets manager. There is a secrets manager where you can upload your file. You can keep all the secrets here. You can keep all the secrets here. See, this is a credential for Amazon ODS document DB builder. So whatever you want, you can keep it here. The username, password, and once you are done, this will create, and you will be providing it the value here, the key and the value, from where it comes, the key and the value. These are the three options which the AWS gives us to store the environment variables. Have you guys understood it?
Yes, Ashok.
So the environment variables are very much important topic where in Java, in any coding, Python, Java, JavaScript, anywhere, if we are declaring, we have to make sure we have to declare the environment. So let me show you Java code. I think I have it somewhere. No, I don't have. See the declaration. This is an environment variable. The relationship version of this is an environment variable. For that, the value is version of. See the type, for the type what we have given, we have taken it. Now I have not been using this main laser cutting. Whatever I needed, this type, I will be using this one. I will be using this one. I will be using the above one. If you see, wherever I needed, I've just used this. I just used this. Okay, I think it has been used somewhere. This is the way. See, we have declared it. We have in the Java, we are declaring in the class itself. But in the Python, anywhere, if you want to use somewhere, then this is the option the AWS gives you. You want to declare it, you can declare it here, the value, or maybe you can do it from the S3. You can upload your file in the S3 and you can share the S3 ARN location, or you can keep it in the secret manager. You can store it in the secret manager, and you can give the key, the value, it automatically takes it. This is a way to store your environment variables. This is one of the way. All the three options, this is has been discussed here. See, for the environment files, environment variables, see, for the value from, this is the way it comes out. AWS RN secret manager region. That way it comes. This is all about environment variables in ECS. This is all about environment variables in ECS. You guys are able to understand, right?
Yes, Ashok.
Okay. Now the next thing about the IAM roles, Now, you tell me, whatever we are discussing, whatever we are working it out, whatever we have worked it out. So, where, if you see, there are two ways in IAM roles. Why IAM roles are needed is that, suppose now we are talking about the S3 bucket access, right? Why we are talking about the S3 bucket access? Suppose we want to have that files, we want to work it out, we want to make sure what all the values, what all the things it has to be saved. So we needed the IAM role for it. For that, S3 bucket access is needed. And I'm telling you guys, from the IAM roles, means if you have any time in future, if you want to give an exam on the architect, solution architect, AWS solution architect, two questions will come from the IAM roles. Two important questions. One, I am practically now, I will tell you the question also, I will tell you the answer also, how exactly it comes out. Now, what exactly I'm talking is that, now if you see, in Fargate mode, there is an option, means there is an option you can provide your IAM access, means whatever you want to do, whatever you want to decide. Suppose now let's take an example. Now you have 5 services. Okay. In all the 5 services, what exactly is that? There is a Docker container and its details, Docker container and everything. And after that, you have the logs. Now, when you first start creating, when you first see, means when you first create a new task definition, you will always be seeing two things. See, there is a task role, optional IAM role. And in the downside, there is another one, task execution role. This is also IAM role. Why there are two IAM roles? Why there are two IAM roles? Read out the option. There are two IAM roles here. One is in the task role and the other one is task execution IAM role. Why there are two IAM roles in a single task? There should be, if we are talking about IAM roles, why there is a two IAM roles? Use the logical sense and tell me. I will explain you why there are two and why. Because in the first time when I'm start using in the ECS cluster, when the task definition, I also got confused. Why there are two task roles? Why?
Each IAM role is providing permission to different entities. Ashok. One is providing the permission for accessing the task, and one more is for execution role. So there are two IAM roles.
Read out the options clearly. For the task role, read out this one.
Ashok, first task is for ECS, Ashok, Elastic Container Service, and second is for CloudWatch.
Yes, let me explain you. See here, for a person, let's take an example. What exactly the most thing needed for us, everyone? A house, a clothing, and food. These are mandatory for every person. But what is optional? You may have a car, you may have a bike. That's optional, that's luxury. But what exactly you needed, your food, your clothing, your house, that's mandatory for each and every person, right? But the car and bike is a luxury, it's optional. Now the same way in a task, if you read out this execution means, as I mentioned here, if you are having 5 services, the Docker container images from the ECR to pull any Docker container images from the ECR and the logs to store it in CloudWatch, to both these are mandatory. These are mandatory for all the services whichever have been you created. For all the services, means all the 5 services are important. Now suppose There is only one service. There is only one service, means the B service is needed S3 bucket access, S3 bucket access, S3 bucket access. Now, if you provide the B service 3 bucket access, then it will be accessible only for the B service. But these two services are mandatory for all the 5 services. But the S3 bucket access is only needed for B service. So this is the way the task definition here mentions. This task execution role is important to pull the container images and to publish the logs to Amazon CloudWatch. This is mandatory. This role has to be provided to all the tasks. This role has to be given to all the tasks. But for this role, something you just want to take it from the S3 bucket. Let me give an example. There is application where you were having means when I started learning my DevOps, at that time there was a portal which I used to check out, where whatever the exams we have written, what the tasks we have written, they used to upload it to the S3 bucket. How exactly they used to work it out is that they usually used to have a Java service, where from the Java service, all the things, whatever we have written, the exams or module or submissions, they all used to go to the S3 bucket directly. Means they are taking the S3 bucket access, means whatever the files we have sent, whatever the files they have taken, they used to store it in the S3 bucket. Means the service is directly taken to the S3 bucket. But the portal, the learning portal, which way we are using, that was just using the same service, means it was not using S3 bucket. It was just checking the how exactly it works out, how exactly the services are looking it out. Means I am saying is here, if you are handled application. In that application, there are 5 services, means all the 5 has to pull the Docker image and has to store the logs to the CloudWatch. This IAM role is important. But for one particular service, I need S3 bucket, means whatever the exam submission result I have to submit for that service, for that only single service, I need S3 bucket access, not all the things. So that is the reason this task role is optional. This is optional. If you want to give, means if you want to give the S3 bucket access, this is the way you will mention it. If you don't want to give, it will always be none. But this is mandatory one. This is mandatory one. Now, I will tell you the question. In Fargate mode, now we are doing in Fargate mode only, right? We are able to give the IAM role or IAM task in the task definition. But if you go back and if you want to create if you want to create if you see EC2, there here you can create. So sorry, this is not the one. Here you will be able to give the access on the EC2 level also. On the EC2 level here in the Fargate mode, we are giving only on the task level. Why we are giving only the access level of the IAM role only on the task level? Why not on EC2?
Sorry, Ashok, please continue.
To access to that particular specific role, Ashok.
In Fargate mode, we are giving only the IAM role access in task level. Why not on EC2 level?
Because it is serverless, right, Ashok? There is no EC2 create.
Yes, that's right. In Fargate mode, we don't have any EC2 machines. It's a serverless. We don't have, that's the reason that in the use case, we'll always be saying in Fargate mode, we will be defining the IAM roles and everything on the task. But when it comes to EC2, we have an option where we can give the access. On the EC2 level also. So the question would be which one, whether the EC2 level or the task level is the best method is the best method? Is the best method? This would be the question. The option should be EC2 and task level. So what is the best option? Use the logic and tell me. I have explained it to you just now. Use the logic and tell me which one is the best method, whether the EC2 level, prime role, or the task level. Which one is the best method? There are two people. You can choose one by one. You can choose one. The other one chooses the other one.
Task level, Ashok.
Okay. What about you, Puneet?
I'll go with EC2 only, Ashok.
Okay. So, okay. Ashwant, why you said task level?
Like we serverless, right, Ashok?
Okay.
That is the main reason I chose that.
Okay.
In this,
Why?
we need to run containers and we need to install everything.
Okay. What about you, Puneet? Why you said EC2 level?
EC2 we will have an option, either like we can either add or we will not be able to. If it is our option, we'll have an option, Ashok.
Okay. Now I will tell you which one is the one. As I mentioned here, we have 5 services. We are having 5 services. Okay. We have hosted these all 5 services on EC2 level, on EC2, right? We are all hosted these all 5 services on EC2. Now, in one of these service, I only for one service, I need IAM access. I only need S3 bucket access. Only one service means B service, I need only S3 access. But if I have provided the access on the EC2 level, if I have provided the access on the EC2 level, means all the other 4 services, all the other 4 services which are running on the EC2 will be able to access the S3 bucket, which will be able to access the S3 bucket, which I don't want, which I don't want. I needed it only for the B service, not for the ACD. But when I have given on the EC2 level, when I have given the IAM role on the EC2 level, means the S3 bucket access, all the other services, all the other services are able to access the S3 bucket, which I don't want, which is a security issue, which is a security issue. So the answer will always be on the task level, because if we are declaring on the task, if we are declaring on the task, only the task means will be able to, the service will be able to use the S3 bucket, not the other services. So the best method, the best one is always the task level, always the task level. So the configuration what we are doing, the configuration what we are doing comes under task level or EC2 level. The configurations, whatever we have done up to now, comes under the task or on service.
Task level, Ashok.
Yes, means yes, that's right. Whatever we are doing, whatever we are declaring, whatever we are in, the starting phase is always on the task. So you guys have the answer, right? The EC2 level and the task level. The best method is the task level. The task level. Any questions, guys? This is the one where they were mentioning over the same thing. Containing secure access, how exactly it works out. Are you guys able to understand?
Yes, Ashok.
No, IAM rules is done. No, list. Okay. Let me ask you a quick question. Suppose, okay. Now, let me ask you a question. On the Fargate mode, or on maybe the EC2 mode, when we are means what exactly means here we have discussed on IAM role, right? Because this is Not we don't have to, but why I'm telling you, this is the way we have to see why the IAMs are very important. Means when you are hosting the machines, when you are hosting the workers or anywhere, how exactly means the main point is that, see, everything here is very easy. Means you just go to the Amazon console and you will just start doing everything, the enabling, the disabling of the tasks and everything. But you should know why and where, why and where should be the task should be included. Before that, you just answer this question so that I can explain you a little bit further. Where is it? Here. Yeah, go on. Read out the question and answer.
Your company prefers using custom hardened AMIs to run EC2 instances for running containers in ECS. Which of the solution option would fulfill these requirements?
Come on, guys, answer it.
Use EC2 Fargate mode, Ashok.
Read out the question, this point clearly.
Custom hardened AMIs to run EC2 instances. ECS. ECS.
Yes, EC2 mode.
Yes, because they need the custom AMIs. Custom AMIs means you will be handling the workers. You will be handling the workers. So this is ECS EC2 mode. Read out the second one.
A company is not sure about the pricing to use the Elastic Container Service with the EC2 launch type. Which of these statements regarding the pricing for this service is correct?
Based on the number of clusters.
Based on the number of
Option C, Ashok.
Okay, what about you, Puneet?
Ashok, it is just as give me a moment, Ashok. I'm reading. He's not sure about pricing to use the Elastic Container Service with EC2 launch type.
Master is the one, they will not charge, they'll charge for workers. One and they'll be out. Is it B, Ashok?
Okay, what about you, Puneet?
It is based on the master and plus EC2 usage, Ashok.
I explained you clearly yesterday itself. AWS gives the master free. AWS gives you the master free.
Yes.
What Ashwant said is that based on the EC2 instances and EBS volume, means the workers what you are using, the workers which you are talking about, it will be considered on the if you create a cluster, if you go on the cluster and VPC, see here the provisioning model, on-demand instance, spot, EC2 instance type, what exactly you want. Why it is not coming? You can create the cluster name, and here the AMI, the size, whatever you are taking, the size, whatever taking, the root value, based on this, they will charge you the money. They will charge you the money. So the option is second. So now let me go back to
Ashok, like the C is also is nearer, right, Ashok?
It's a CPU, right? And CPU plus memory container. See, on a single EC2 machine, you can have multiple containers, right?
Mm.
So
Yes.
how you are gonna charge based on the CPU? Suppose you have a machine as I've taken on demand and spot. Now, if you have taken 3 rupees per hour, if you have taken 3 rupees per hour on demand or spot on demand, what exactly they do? They were using, means if the CPU means, suppose they have given instance to you, suppose they give an instance to you, and you have loaded the application. Now consider that they have used the C option for you based on the CPU plus, and in that they have given a T2 X large for you, T2 X large,
Okay.
which is more. And in that you are just using the CPU percentage to only 20%. Okay. And your container is just using only 10% the memory. That's a loss for you, right? That's a loss
Yes,
for
yes,
them.
yes.
T2.x large, T2.x large, this much big machine and you are not using that much. So it's a loss for them. But if they sell you or based on the EC2 instance, based on the EC2 instance, and you will be taking very small, and you know that what is the exact usage you will be using. So obviously they will be going through this one, what exactly EC2 instance I need it, what exactly I want to take use it, how exactly here whether you are taking T2X large or T2 medium, whatever you are maybe, but you will be paying for the total T2X large money. But if you are using very less memory and less CPU usage, why will you take big one? Because they will be charging based on the instance which you are taking, it's based on instance which you are taking. Suppose T2 medium, T2 micro, that is very less and very less cost. The T2 X large, if it is 10 rupees per hour for T2 micro, for T2 X large, it will be 20 rupees per hour. So they will always go for the less one. They will not go based on the CPU, because suddenly, if the application goes to 2x traffic, they can automatically change the instance. They can ask for the horizontal scaling. But if you go for the memory, they have to again have to get another one. This is never an option. The second one is the correct. Based on this, the company always, all the companies will go based on the EC2 instances, means how much memory they need, how much thing they wanted to own, how much the application they have running. They will consider that type with the EC2 launch type. Are you guys able to get it?
Yes, Ashok.
Yes, Ashok, yes.
Now, if you see, if you remember it, on the voting app, we had something called where if we want to place, as I mentioned, where exactly means whatever we are doing, we are just doing it on the UI. But we should know why and where. Why and where should be the placement constraint, means what exactly this placement constraint. If you remember in the Docker Swarm, we used to have, if we want to keep our environments only on the QA or only on the dev, we used a variable called placement constraint region.label equals to environment, where we kept on the worker node, that we modified the worker node the label as QA or dev, then automatically the container has hosted, the container started hosting only on that worker node. You remember it? Do you guys remember that one?
Yes, Ashok.
Remember it? I'm just telling you, you just remember it. Do you guys remember it? We have a placement constraint here when we are talking about where is the PPT?
That location, India, that thing, no, Ashok.
Yes. Do you guys remember this one? Where is this? Is this, I have kept it here only, right?
Mm. Yes, Ashok. Must be here only. Uh,
Or I've just given you, oh, sorry, it's in on the Nginx. Sorry, it's in on
Engine.
the Nginx. Because it came into the advanced topic. See, You remember this constraint where I have to give what exactly the value which I needed, right? You remember this one
Yes, Ashok. Yes, yes, Ashok.
where we have created a Docker service
Yeah.
and the node we update it to the region so that it only comes on this. The same way here we need to understand where exactly why and where the containers has to be placed. Now, as I mentioned here, suppose now I have four containers, four worker nodes, because in Fargate mode we don't have workers because it's a serverless. So now in the EC2, this use case will always be for the EC2. This use case will always be for the EC2. Now I have two applications, means two containers. One is let me write like this. Uh, I'm just gonna use one learn and the other one was test or maybe help. Okay, help and learn. Now, this is an ed form, this is an edtech form where thousands of learners always use learn portal. Thousands of learners use learn portal. And many few people, means whenever they have some doubts or something, they go to the help portal. So now you guys tell me, here I need the learn should always be hosted on the bigger machines. The learn should always be hosted on the bigger machines, but the help should always be hosted on the smaller machines. How I am going to do it? Is this use case possible in the forget mode? Is this use case possible in the forget mode? Is this use case possible in the forget mode?
Yes, Ashok. We can create a cluster of
Guys, these are EC2 machines. These are all EC2 machines. Okay,
Not possible.
these are all EC2 machines. So now tell me, is this use case possible in the Fargate mode, Ashwant?
no, Ashok.
Now my question is, there are two services which I want the services to be always hosted on the bigger machines, and the small services, means the help services, which means the learn portal is, and the learn portal, the attack from which is having two portals, two services. One is learn and help. The learn will always be visited by thousands of users, and the help is mainly used by 5 to 10 users per day. So I want this learn service to be hosted on my bigger machines and the help on the EC2 machines. This use case is not possible in Fargate mode because we will not be having the worker nodes. We will not be having the EC2 machines at all. So it's always this case use case comes in EC2 mode. Always this use cases comes in EC2 because we are handling the worker nodes. We are handling the worker nodes. How exactly we gonna do it? This is the process we're gonna do it. There are three types of ways how you gonna do it is bin packing, spread, distinct instance. What is exactly bin packing? The bin packing is that first fill out the machine, fill out the machine with all the containers, whatever you are having the containers, fill out it, means until unless there is no space in this bin pack, then go to the second one. Means whatever the containers are having, fill all the containers in a single machine itself, and until you found out that this machine is not able to take anymore, then go to the second one and start filling it there. This is called bin packing. This is called bin packing. Now the spread is that distribute equally means if you give a one, give it here. If you are given another one here, give it another one here. Spread it, you distributing equally. Distinct, what is distinct? Distinct is that one container per one machine. One container per one machine. Only one container per one machine. Now you guys tell me, what will be the use cases? What are all the use cases? The bin packing will be used. What are the use cases? The spread will be used. And what will be the use cases? The distinct instance will be used. Use the logic, whatever we have discussed up to now, you will be able to answer these questions. Bin packing, I am actually keeping all my containers in a single instance until it says, okay, now I am full. Then I will be going to another instance and will be filling the containers. The spread, I am
Equally uniform. Yeah.
uniformly distributing my containers in the same EC2 missions. Uniformly, I'm distributing my load, uniformly distributing the containers. The district, I am keeping only one instance, one container per one instance, one container per one instance. What will be the use cases? What will be the use cases for this kind of task placement?
Ashok, you weren't audible, Ashok.
Okay, where did I stop? How much you
The,
were able to?
the last point, Ashok, after spread thing, what you
After
told.
spread, okay, you uniformly distributing each container means uniformly distributing the containers to the correct instances, means if I am giving one here, the other one here, if I'm giving another one here, another one here, the distinct instance, one container per one instance, one container per one instance. What may be the use cases we will be using all the three task placements? What will be the use cases?
Till now, whatever we have done in that, we need to tell Ashok.
No, use a logical sense. Use some logical sense and tell me. Suppose you know how exactly. Okay, I just don't want to try. Bin packing. What is exactly the bin packing? The bin packing, what we are doing, we are actually putting all our containers in the single machine until unless it is full. This type, why we use for the non-production environments. We use for the non-production environments. Dev QA. Why? Cost saving, because here if the dev environment is not working properly also, we don't care, but we can't keep it on the production environment, right? Because if we keep all our containers on single machine, and if that machine goes corrupted or deleted or something happens, our application is down. These things should not happen. So we will have to have a cost effective thing. So for the cost effective, we will always have to keep our containers on the non-prod environments. We will be keeping on the non-prod environments. The bin packing is always used, the task placement will always be used for the non-production environments. The spread is for the production environment. Suppose if you see one container is gone, one instance has been down, the other instance is up, so it will handle the load, it will able to handle the load. Or maybe the other instance is load, because in the three instances, one is down, the other two will be able to handle the load. But in bin packing, there are two instances and one is totally full, and in the other instance it is having only one container. It will not be able to take the load. This bin packing is always used for the non-production environment. The task placement of this is for the non-production environments. The spread is always for the production environments. The distinct instance is a host where you need only one single container for one single EC2 machine. This comes into the host network. When you want to use the host network, we will be using the distinct instance. This is about EC2 task placement. This is about EC2 task placement. This is the same thing, the bin packing, how exactly they're used, the spread. This is the one, placement strategy constraint. This is the one about the placement strategy. Any questions, guys? Are you guys able to understand whatever we have discussed? Hello.
Yes, Ashok. Yes, you're audible, Ashok.
Are you guys able to understand whatever we have discussed?
Yes, Ashok. All these things are in all these things are background processes, right, Ashok?
Background process? No. Means what exactly the background process you are saying?
I mean the use cases which you told right now.
No,
That's
it's
what.
not the background, right? It's when you go into as a DevOps engineer, once you start working for a company, they will be asking you a help. See, man, I have a non-production environment. Whether what should be the strategy I should be using to save the cost, because obviously I want to save money. I don't want to use more. And you can't say that, okay, keep one container for one instance. You will not be saying that those things, right? So you have to give them the placement strategy. So, okay, we can keep containers. Anyways, it's a production environment, though that's fine. It's a non-production environment, that's fine. We can keep 5 to 10 containers in a single machine. And if it is a production environment, you will say, oh no, we will keep only two containers in that machine, or maybe 3 containers in that machine, and we will be uniformly distribute. We will uniformly distribute the load. That way you should be able to tell them. That way you should be able to tell them, okay, this is the way how exactly the DevOps engineer has to be helpful for the organization. It's not a background process. These are all the use cases, the task type, whatever I have discussed after this, the the placement strategy and the IAM roles means, if you mention, see, as I mentioned, if the security issue is there, you can't give access to the EC2 level. You should never give the access to on the EC2 level, because if it is a defense projects or maybe aerospace projects, suppose, and you are all having 5 services, in that 5 services only one service you should be having S3 bucket access, not other 4 services. But if the people other than you are able to using that service, if they are able to log in into the EC2 machine, they will be able to see the S3 bucket access. And for that one particular service, it is having many confidential files you are keeping on the S3 bucket. Obviously, the person who is having the EC2 access will be able to see what exactly on the S3 is. That should never happen. Like if you are on, as I mentioned, the credentials page. Now take the Ola page. On the Ola, you are actually authenticating. For the authentication, you are all authenticating from the S3, through the S3, because there is the username and password, you kept it there. So you are authenticating. But for that, if you give the access to the mapping where you are actually, the other service means, the search page, the Google API which you are using. If you have kept on the EC2 machine access, you have given on the EC2 machine, the person who logins into the EC2 machine obviously able to see the S3 bucket access, and he will be able to see the username and password of everyone's, and he can misuse, right? He can
Yes.
misuse. We should never do that. This is the way we have to think out of our box when we start as a DevOps engineer. We should not be a label. We should be always able to help the organization to go further. That should be our first phenomenon whenever we start working on it. The security should be our main priority, and we should not be able to do anything else, because whatever we are doing, we should be do it very carefully, because they actually trust us, because the data, everything will be on our hands. If something happens first, the infrastructure goes down, or something happens, or it's maybe hacked, or something happens, all our things will be gone. So we should be able to map these things. These are all the use cases which comes to you once you start working on it. Are you guys able to understood?
Yes, sir, sure.
So do these tasks, and I think here, see the logging and everything I will explain you next week, because for the logging I need to explain you the CloudWatch. I don't want to go further. You can do this demo. I think this is the third use case, means which I have explained you now. This is the same one. You have to do that one. And Route 53 is the same thing which I've just explained, the namespace where it connects to one to the other one. ECS services. The load balance I will explain when I'm explaining the logging and monitoring. So I just don't want to do it now. And it's the same thing, the network bridge and everything we have discussed. So this is the updated PPT. I will share it with you, and along with I will share this PPT also. ECS cluster launch types. Okay. Where exactly we were? Strategy types. Placement constraint. Okay, that's fine. After this is a question, I will ask you tomorrow. No issues. And service structure, deployment, service auto scaling, load balancing. I will ask. We'll go tomorrow about the advanced EC2 mode. This is all about on the Fargate. And in the Fargate, once we come to the EC2, what are the environmentables we want to use, the IAM roles, the placement constraints I've just explained. Tomorrow we'll go on the deployment, auto scaling and everything, and we will close the ECS, AWS ECS. and then we will go on the monitoring and logging. We'll go to the monitoring and logging, and after that we will go for the Jenkins.
Okay.
I will share the PPT with you along the video. So any questions you have, you can ask me. I told you what to do. You should be able to do this. As I mentioned, create all the 5 tasks, create all the 5 services, and you should be able to vote and you should be able to do it. And I told you where exactly we'll be facing the issue regarding environment variables. You should be able to do that. As this is a Fargate mode, you don't have to worry about the clusters, instances, and anything about that, because it will be taken care by the AWS itself. And when you are creating the cluster, I will always prefer go with the isolated VPC. Create an isolated VPC, and you have to, when you are creating the task or creating the service, you have to enable the service discovery, because it will be the one which actually connects your DNS names, the service endpoints between the services.
Service discovery.
Any questions, guys? Anything if you want, you can ask me. Otherwise, we can close the call and we will meet you tomorrow at the same 8:30 at the same time.
8:30, Ashok?
Yeah. Tomorrow at the same time, again at 8:30.
Okay, sure.
Ashok,
Yes.
like we have discussed, like bin packing, spread packing, and one more thing.
Bin packing spread. There is no spread packing. Spread distinct instance.
Distinct. Like in industry, we are using for spread, right, Ashok?
For production environments, we use spread.
We can use one more also, right, Ashok? Last one. Distinguished packing.
Distinct. See, one host for one container.
Hmm.
One host for one container. So that there is no point, right? Because see, suppose you have 50 services.
Okay.
50 services means 50 containers. For that, you need 50 instances, right?
Yes.
That's a very lot of money. Suppose if you use spread and you have only 10 instances, so it will be having 5 per each instance, right?
Yes, Ashok.
Yes.
This is a cost saving one, right?
No,
Why will
I meant in this way, Ashok. Like for every machine, it will go for one container for each thing. Right,
Yeah,
Ashok?
but yes, but why would I do that? Because that's if I'm using only one port, means only one container host. You remember host, right? It uses the EC2 container mapping, whatever it been to the host, right?
Yes.
So if I'm using already, if I can use 5 to 6 ports in a single EC2 machine, why would I go for a host one? Why would I go for the distinct? What is the reason for it? Because it's actually, see, the distinct instance is a rare case people use it. I'm saying it very rare, because no one will be able to spend that much money. No one will be able to spend that much money. It's logically also, you think it also, no one will be able to want to spend. If they're having 100 services, they need to have 100 machines for that. That's very costly for them when they start working on it.
Yes,
And if
Ashok.
going forward, if the application goes and need another 10 more instances, again they need to buy. But
Yes.
if they go through spread for 100, if they keep it on 10, if another 10 needed, they just need to buy only one machine, which is very cost saving compared to the other things. And only the production environments we use spread. And I think the bin packing comes for the non-production environments, where you can keep 8 or 10 containers in a single EC2 machine, or maybe 20 containers also, if you are using T2X large or M2X large. That way it works out.
Yes, got it, Ashok.
Just wait a minute, let me see. Okay, this is the one I was actually talking about. Export username Ashok. Echo dollar username. See, this is the way we variable declaration does. This is the way we use it. We just using the dollar symbol in front of the variable. So it takes the value of this one. Okay, guys, anything more? If you don't have, we can close the call and we'll meet tomorrow at the same time, 8:30.
Sure.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, do the homework.